So before I start, I should probably say that I've worked for Microsoft and I've worked for the Gates Foundation and would like to do so in the future. So whatever I'm saying now is from the point of view of somebody who's got a great deal of respect for the man at the top, who I guess was nominally my boss, and who I think is doing some amazing things with the fortune that he's managed to earn. And I look forward to seeing more of what he's able to do. That said, Bill Gates just published an article about climate change where he's overlooking something that I think is very important that we put on the table. Let me read it. He writes, "There's a doomsday view of climate change that goes like this. In a few decades, cataclysmic climate change will decimate civilization. The evidence is all around us. Just look at all the heat waves and storms caused by rising global temperatures. Nothing matters more than limiting the rise in temperature." And he says, fortunately for all of us, this view is wrong. He says, although climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for people in the poorest countries, it will not lead to humanity's demise. I'd hope he's right, but there's something eminently dangerous about what he's saying, which is the thing that he's overlooking, which is what's going to happen to our food supply chain. We continue to come to climate change with a very presentist notion that the things that we're used to are pretty much the way things are going to be. A lot of that includes the way we've structured our lives to live in cities and other environments where we don't grow our own food. I plant tomatoes. I get a couple of tomatoes a year on my balcony. I can do some parsley, basil, a few other things. Maybe some of you actually do grow a lot of your own food. But for the most part, most people on the planet don't grow our own food. We rely on farmers in the US, 2%, 3% of the population works on farms, and the rest don't produce their own food. In the US, a lot of vegetables are grown in places like California and Florida, and the other essentials, wheat, soy, corn, are grown in the Midwest, and of course the meat that people depend on. Here in Europe, so much of our food comes from Spain and other southern places. And the infrastructure to get the food from the places where it's grown into our supermarkets and into our fridges has taken decades and decades to build up. In our presentist notion, this system works and should continue to work, regardless of whether it gets a little bit warmer outside, regardless of whether we no longer have winter. The big problem is that for this system to work, it depends on farmers being able to grow crops that they can predict what's going to happen with the water supplies they have, with the temperatures they're used to. And that is what's changing very, very rapidly. We've seen in recent years periodic failures of one crop or another. Olives or chocolate or coffee, but it could be corn or beans, the things cattle and chickens rely on to eat, that we rely on so that we can have McDonald's or eggs. If there's a failure in the ability of the farmers to produce those crops, it's not just bad for the farmer. It's bad for you and me. We're not going to be able to go out to the store and get the things that we were relying on those farmers to grow. I don't know about you, but in my apartment, I'm not going to have chickens. I'm not going to raise my own eggs. I'm not going to be able to grow very much in the way of vegetables. I can sprout lentils and mustard seeds, and I highly recommend that you do the same. But that's not going to feed me and my daughter, and that's not going to be able to feed you and your family either. At the moment, this hasn't been a problem that we've really taken notice of. As Bill Gates notes, we tend to see the big climate catastrophes. Things like the fire in Los Angeles, which, okay, were those unlucky people? Or are you going to have some sort of climate catastrophe yourself? And don't mention Miami, which is inevitably going to sink into the ocean, unfortunately, and so many other coastal cities. But it's not just those sort of things that we see on a kind of a slow rise on the graph. What's going to happen is that some of these climate events are going to be a year of drought here, another year of drought here, another year of drought here, or opposite, floodings, that make it impossible for farmers to grow the food. And when they try to grow food, farmers that at one latitude suddenly are not able to grow the food that they thought they were able to grow. How far into Canada can we be going to grow our foods? From a North American perspective, it might become that Mexico becomes impossible to grow the foods that are grown there. California becomes impossible to grow the foods that are from there. It will probably be the case that climate change is going to affect agriculture a lot more quickly than we're able to respond to, than the farmers are able to respond to, than the food supply systems are able to respond to. You and I will not be able to grow our own food. There's no guarantee that the systems that get foods from farms to us is going to be able to keep on functioning as we change the climate, as the climate gets warmer and warmer, and we lose the predictability of the foods that we've come to rely on and the systems that feed those of us who can't feed ourselves. This is just a quick thought I wanted to get out in response to Bill Gates' provocative article, what he provoked with me. I hope that you appreciate it. Hope you subscribe to the Private Professor channel. Hope that you share this, and I hope that you really think about what this means, because what we really need to be doing is not the sort of incremental, okay, climate change is bad, but we're on the trajectory towards solving it. What we really need to be thinking about is how do we go on a war footing against climate change, put everything we can, yes and, yes and, yes and, whatever the possible solutions are, try each and every one of them as though it is an emergency, because you know what? Yeah, right.